Yes, in fact, it's the only school I applied after graduating from high school. It was my preferred school. Back in the 70s, it was one of the preferred schools to get into. The other being Ateneo and UP, or the others being Ateneo and UP, which is, I think, the same thing that's a perception now. I did at the start, yes, because as a graduate from a provincial high school, the culture was completely different. Most of my classmates were graduates of LaSalle Green Hills. Part of the reason why there was difficulty is because I was recruited to join the Accelerated Honors Program by Brother Francis Garvey, who was the dean of the Liberal Arts Department at that time. I did not intend to enroll in the honors program. I applied actually for Liacom. But I think Brother Garvey looked at the entrance exams of the top graduates at that time. I was fortunate to have graduated with honors in high school, and my entrance exam administered by FAPE was quite good. I think it was 99.9 percentile. I think they recruited all those with very high percentile scores in the entrance exam, and they put them together in this honors program. The Brother Garvey's selling proposition at that time was that I would finish my bachelor's BA degree in 3 years and 2 summers. So that was an attraction for me. So that's how I. Then the difficulty in the culture is because most of my classmates, as I said, were friends from high school. I was kind of an outsider. I felt like I did not belong to their society, to their group. So at the start, I really had a hard time coping. Also, speaking English was not very easy for me at that time, and that was something I had to learn along the way. Eventually, I found, that was only the start. No, eventually I became friends with some of my classmates, especially those that did not graduate from LaSalle. Specifically, there was one guy who graduated from a Chinese school, and we kind of hit it off. And I was fortunate also that some of the LaSalle Green Hills guys were quite friendly, and they at the start some of them kind of, I felt, were kind of elitist, but eventually I think they were. Yes, I think I was a member. This was about several decades ago, but I remember I was a member of the math club, and I was a member of the a religious society called the SCA. I think it was something with the Blessed Sacrament. I was very active in sports too. I was a member of the intramurals varsity team. So I was quite active. First and foremost is the concern for the marginalized. Yes, that's at the Sunland Valley. I think that I quickly adopted as my own personal value. I remember that every project that had to do with the marginalized, I participated in. I think the most significant of which is in 1972 there was a major flood that happened in Central Luzon, and LaSalle had a project called the Central Luzon Rehabilitation Program. The entire Central Luzon was flooded, and there were a lot of communities that suffered. Houses were inundated, livelihood was affected. LaSalle specifically did a project in Arayat, Pampanga. The project was to rehabilitate the people who suffered tremendously during that great flood. They I think lost a lot of opportunities in terms of their crops and so forth. So we spent I think a week, but I went back another week. We spent a whole week sleeping with them, trying to help them get back on their feet. So that was something that I think I thought was kind of endearing to me. We also got involved in a lot of community projects dealing with the squatter communities around the sun. Fortunately not. Again, I was kind of this friend I was telling you who graduated from Chinese school applied with a company called it's a financing company, and also a couple of my classmates in LaSalle applied with this SGV company. So I tagged along, and we took the exam and passed it, and immediately we were hired. There were, I think, how many were we in I think there were 3 or 4 of us that joined SGV. The other guy joined, I forgot, financing, PDCP. He joined PDCP, which is just a building away, and we remained close. And later on, in fact, the 2 of my classmates in LaSalle went on and studied at AIM. So we didn't really have a hard time. I think partly because we did well in the entrance exam in SGV, and also because I think we had good grades. In fact, our entire batch graduated with honors. To a man, everybody was graduated with honors. In fact, there was kind of peer pressure with 2 of our classmates, because they were we were kind of pressuring everyone to graduate at least with a cum laude. There were 2 who were in the borderline, and we kind of pressured them to make sure that they at least made cum laude. So it was a very good batch. So we didn't have a hard time getting jobs. And again, that's the only company I applied after. At that time, I didn't know that. Later on, I realized that I think the fact that we graduated from LaSalle had leverage. We learned later on that the company were recruiting graduates from reputable schools, and although SGV was an accounting firm, it was not just LaSalle, of course. So they were recruiting graduates of reputable schools specific to what their requirements were. For accounting and for auditors, they were recruiting mainly from UP at that time. But for management services people, they were recruiting from LaSalle Ateneo and UP. So we kind of learned about. I joined this company since 1977, so that makes it about 36 years. Okay. Although when I joined the group, I didn't have plans of staying on for 36 years. Initially, in fact, I was thinking I'd probably spend 2 years with the company. The reason being is I knew the company was a family-held corporation, and I was actually asked by my classmate in AIM, an Indian guy, who did a thesis with the group, and said they were looking for a finance manager to run the finance group of Manila Broadcasting Company. I said, so sure. I didn't have any. In fact, I did apply. I was kind of recruited through this classmate of mine. I just went for the interview with the vice president then, who is now our chairman, Mr. Fred Elizalde. I just went in. I didn't take any exams. I just went in for the interview, and he said, he asked me when I can start. And I said, I haven't graduated yet, because we were still in school at that time. And I said, I'll be graduating, I think, 1 month or 2 months later. And then he said, when you graduate, come back and we'll hire you. So that's what happened. So I've been here for 36 years. And the reason why I stayed on is because although at initially I was thinking it's a family corporation, I probably move on later on. But I realized Mr. Elizalde was actually wanted to run the company really professionally. He managed not because of relationships, but because of meritocracy, and he really I mean, I found the culture that was nurtured by Mr. Rizal to be to my liking. So we're kind of a big family, but we try and run the group. I would define it the way I lead.
Okay,
I lead by example, and I lead. I'm not a tyrant. I think a leader is one who can build good consensus, and one who is able to sell his ideas. Is one who does not demand respect, but who earns respect from his colleagues. That's the way I think a leader should act. It's someone who can earn the respect of his subordinates and of his others. Since I was thrust in this situation, I try and make sure that I perform and try to accomplish the task at hand, always to the best of my ability. Challenges, obviously you always face challenges that sometimes can frustrate you, but the challenges don't get me thinking that I shouldn't be in this position. In fact, the challenges would spur me more to work even harder. Challenges are made, I believe that challenges are made in fact, to make a person. We have a planning session on more or less now on a regular basis, where we set the mission and the vision of the company. We do our strategic planning, and that's where you set your vision, and you evaluate your strengths, your weaknesses, you identify opportunities and threats. It's basically the traditional way of doing strategic planning, and based on what we see, with regard to the environmental scan within the industry where we operate, we then set out our objectives and our strategies and plans. So it's the way we do planning here is quite traditional. We do as I said, we start with the mission and vision. We review our mission and vision, and because we've said that before, so it's a matter of reviewing the mission and vision, and then we do our usual SWOT analysis, and then the environmental scan, and then we proceed from there. That's basically. I try to as much as possible. By the way, when I graduated, I think we were the last batch to graduate at De La Salle College. Because in 1975, the school changed its name to De La Salle University. Okay. So anyway, I try to practice all the Lasallian values, and I mentioned about care for the marginalized. I think I still try and do that. I try to be as good and excellent in everything I do, and all the Christian values, being a Christian gentleman. I think I try to inculcate not only within myself, but within the subordinates I have in the company, and also in my family. I try to spread that kind of. Our corporate social responsibility is kind of inherent in our business. We're in the broadcast business, and the CSR activities that we have kind of relate to the business we're in. These are in projects related to medical and medical outreach, medical and concern for the poor. We have a regular program that we established I think that was about 30 years ago, called Operation Tulong, and this is something that has been that started in Manila, in our flagship station DZRH, and was replicated in a lot of and all our other stations in the provinces. Okay, the project became, in fact, a radio program, and what we do is every day we provide medical assistance to indigent families. They come to the station, and the indigents will give us their medical requirements, and we try to bridge the donors with the patients. We've also tie-ups with hospitals who can provide attention to the indigent patients. In addition to this, every time there is a natural disaster, typhoon, or even a non-natural disaster like fires and so forth, our stations would always be there to assist and provide immediate relief to the family, to the victims. So if there's a typhoon, we immediately set up like immediate kitchen. We set up a kitchen facility so that we can cook and provide food, because immediately that's what the requirement. They need nourishment, and then later on the medical team will try and set up also and provide medical attention to the affected families. So that's more, and you know, it's like a movement already in the group. As we try and encourage as many of our employees to join in and participate in this. The latest would be it's not really medical or it's the environmental. We also engage in environmental CSR.
Yeah.
So the latest is the cleanup of Manila Bay. Okay. Which is spearheaded by our station manager in DZRH, Attorney Reggie Larbal. So it's, and we've been doing this quite regularly for the last 3 years. We've partnered with a lot of establishments within the area, Land Bank in particular. In fact, the moving force behind this project was Land Bank, and we were invited by Land Bank, but we took it upon ourselves to make it our own CSR. We headed the last one, which was conducted in January, which is just a month ago. It was MBC that spearheaded that particular project, and this is done before it was done every year, but now we're trying to do it more regularly. So quarterly we have a cleanup there. In fact, every anniversary for the last 3 years, every anniversary of DZRH, we conduct a fun run, because this is the latest craze now. And the proceeds, the profit, part of the proceeds of the fun run are given to the Manila Bay cleanup project.
Okay.
That's a tough question. Well, I think it's basically by going back to the core values of the LaSalle core values. The LaSalle core values, I think, basically covers cover the the fact that you'd be living your life firstly for God, and secondly for the country. I think one thing that I think I can give as a message is for the youth to be more politically and socially involved. What I've seen in the last, compared to our generation was very politically and socially aware. Maybe because of the times we were living in. It was a quarter storm, Reggie. We were very politically aware because the times when we were in school, third quarter storm, right? There was a lot of activism in a good sense. We were all, we were very idealistic. We were not. Our concern was really more at that time for the country. During those times we were fighting for reforms. We were fighting for things that we felt were important for the leaders of the country to take. Of course, the milieu at that time was that we had a dictator, which is Marcos.
Right.
It doesn't change. Even if we don't have the dictator now, it doesn't mean that the students should not focus on those social and political issues. I think the students should be concerned about how our leaders are leading, our leaders are running the government, in order for them not only to know what's right and wrong, but also to be able to influence the way our political system, our social systems are structured. So my message is get more involved.
Okay.